Welcome to a special episode of WCC All-Access. I'm Ezra Broder. Coming up, we talk about racial and social injustice and its impact on the sports world. We go one-on-one with former NBA head coach and San Diego alum David Fizdale, who discusses the racism he's faced throughout his life. And we talk with former Pepperdine star Lynn Williams about how pro sports leagues are leading the movement for racial equality. But first, the racial reckoning happening in this country is having a major impact on the sports world. Coaches and athletes are using their platforms to raise awareness. We spoke with a panel of current WCC coaches and student athletes about finding their voice and helping to create change. I'm joined here today by Portland men's basketball head coach Terry Porter, San Diego softball head coach MJ Knighten, and Gonzaga basketball student athlete Corey Kispert. Thank you all for joining me today.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
So, Coach Porter, I want to start with you. Having grown up in Milwaukee, which statistically one of the most segregated cities in the country, you coached the Bucks for a few seasons, and we saw this summer how the Bucks' actions during the playoffs kind of sparked awareness throughout the sports world. How have you seen the landscape change in terms of players and coaches being able to speak their minds? And was there any difference for you as a player compared to as a coach?
Well, I think that today's players have done a much better job of being involved and using their platform for social injustice. I think for whatever reason, during my time, you didn't have social media, you didn't have the ability to really reach out to a lot of your followers and just make it be known. I think just you've had so many, not only just players, I think you've had organizations and teams really champion the players' causes and really get behind the players, and that's been tremendous to see. And obviously Milwaukee, I think it was great that what the Milwaukee Bucks did. I thought that for them to obviously recognize that their state was hurting and for them to really come together and be able to, again, try to use a major platform and try to bring awareness to what's going on. And more importantly, as we move forward, it's something that stays in the discussion and we continue to try to find solutions.
Corey, being a white player in a predominantly white community, what do you feel your role is in the fight for racial equality?
Yeah, I mean, it's a much different landscape here in Spokane. And that's really no secret to anybody who, walks around Gonzaga's campus. It's my job, I think, to, bring light to the situation in Spokane, do my best to be an ally to anybody I can, and be an advocate for, my teammates who are part of the vast minority of, non-white people at Gonzaga. So it's really important for me to be their champion and be their ally and really work hard and have, my influence or use the influence that I have here, like Coach Porter or like Coach Knighten, to really, push change and make changes, not only here in Spokane, but wherever, my voice may reach.
Coach Knighten, first of all, congratulations on being named the head coach just a few short weeks ago. You're obviously newer to the conference, but softball in general has been historically more of a white sport. I know when you were a player, you were one of only a few black players that were on the field, and right now at USD, I believe you only have one black player on your roster. Is it challenging to talk about racial justice?
For me, no. I mean, it's uncomfortable, yes, but it's not a challenge for me. I can only speak from my experience and what I have, been seeing in my eyes. I can't speak for every black person, but I can speak for me. But you know what? I'm going to talk and I'm going to use my voice and my platform the best of my ability because, that's what I can do. And I can do other little things as well as donate, petition, vote, all those things. But, I need to still bring light to the situation the best way that I can. And even that's a hard conversation. We all have to have them, and this is one of them.
Coach Porter, how do you talk to your players about racial justice?
First, I like to listen to their stories and see how it's affected them, if, uncle or somebody they know in their community. And then we talk through those situations. Again, my father had to talk to me about how to conduct myself when I got pulled over in some type of random, police stop or whatever it was. And I had to talk to my sons about it. So I think that it's there. Obviously, it's on the current news cycle every day. And so every day we talk about it. A majority of my team is of people of color. And it's something that is on their topic because when they call home, they talk to their parents. And their parents obviously are worried. They're far away from home. How are they doing? And so I think it's first to let them talk and get a feel for what they have to say, and then try to talk through any answers or any things you can best share my own personal experience with to try to help them get through it.
And Coach, you mentioned just kind of listening to the stories of students. Corey, you have an opportunity with the NABC, National Association of Basketball Coaches, as a member of the Player Development Coalition. Can you talk about how that group is helping to give a voice to student athletes?
Yeah, I mean, that's the main reason why we're getting together. And that's the main reason why it was formed, was to give athletes across the country a collective voice. And I think that the trend is starting to move in the right direction, kind of letting athletes advocate for themselves. And if that means make an impact in the community through who you are and the platform that you have, we're all for that. And I think some really exciting things are going down in that committee, and a lot of the guys that are involved, everybody that's involved is really committed to seeing some tangible change very quickly.
MJ, being the new softball coach at San Diego, the only black female head coach in the WCC at this point in any sport, and the first female black head coach in San Diego history, do you feel any pressure because of that? Do you feel like there's a spotlight on you, and do you feel okay with that?
I don't feel any pressure with it. I feel there's a sense of pride with it, a sense of respect. I don't feel any pressure with it. I don't. And, I'm still going to do my job. There's probably a little bit more spotlight on it, and I'm okay with that. But that's not going to deter me from doing what I need to do by empowering these women and bringing more diversity into the softball program here. It's just a title to me because I'm going to hold it with the utmost respect, and I'm going to do my job and do right by it.
The West Coast Conference made a series of changes in the wake of the murder of George Floyd and others. Our schools, coaches, and student athletes are committed to taking action.
We are committed to standing up against racial injustice.
We will listen, we will understand, and we will love.
We will continue the conversation and education on race and injustice.
We will expand our players' and staff's perspective by continuing to seek out mentorship from diverse populations.
We will educate our student athletes on the voting process, how to register, what to look for.
We're also going to make sure that each and every one of our guys are registered to vote, but also knowledgeable on each candidate.
We will educate ourselves on the issues and vote on November 3rd.
We are committed to using our platform to speak out for those who need to be heard.
I am committed to using my voice to raise awareness, support those I care about, and support those in my communities.
We will work to ensure that our program promotes a respectful and inclusive environment.
We have developed a committee dedicated to incorporating diversity, equity, and inclusion in our program.
I will hold myself accountable and be present with my teammates every day.
I will continue the conversation on my team.
I am finding ways to reach out and express my love, my appreciation, and my respect for others.
I will ensure that our international student athletes will better understand systematic racism in America so that they can help be the change.
We are committed to being the change we need in our society.
It's time to take a break. When we come back, former NBA head coach David Fizdale joins us to talk about his own experiences with racism. That and more after a quick break. This episode of WCC All-Access is brought to you in part by Nike, Just Do It, and University Credit Union, who invites WCC alumni and fans to bank with their brain and open an account today. We're back on WCC All-Access. I'm Ezra Broder. He grew up in LA during the race riots of the 80s and 90s. He faced racism as a student athlete at USD, and as an NBA head coach, David Fizdale learned how to stand up to the injustices he saw. I talked with Coach Fizz about those experiences. You grew up in Los Angeles in the 80s, kind of the epicenter of racial unrest here in the US. and obviously witnessed a lot of racism firsthand. How did that kind of shape your childhood?
It had a huge impact. You know, when you're born into it, you think that's how it's supposed to be, which is a scary thought. But we were pretty much an occupied state. Now that I know what that term means in my older years, you know, we were held in check. And when we got out of line, there were consequences. When we didn't get out of line, there was consequences. And so you rode around with the fear that you were, because you were Black, you could possibly be pulled over and brutalized. And so you just became accustomed to it, and it definitely shapes the way you perceive law enforcement, the relationship between the community and law enforcement.
You played basketball at University of San Diego, which was pretty different racial makeup than what you were used to. What sort of challenges did you face as a minority at USD?
One of the reasons I really liked the idea of going to USD was because it was different than what I had grown up knowing. After a date with a Black girl from San Diego State, we were basically pulled over and surrounded by police right in front of Maher Hall on campus. And I wonder if that incident would have happened if I was white. All I could think about was, wow, you know, you go through this and you live through it and you adapt to it. And just when you think, man, I made it to, you know, I'm in college, you know, nobody here is thinking like that. And for it to happen was just a real reality check for me. And it reminded me that this is going to be a reoccurring theme in my life.
You get to the NBA first as an assistant coach and then as a head coach, and you know, people might think, okay, at that point, like, you've made it, and maybe you're past that point. But obviously, we've still seeing today that you know, players go through this all the time. Even LeBron James, right, is told to just shut up and dribble. What kind of scrutiny did you face as a head coach in the NBA in regards to speaking out about racial justice?
When I was in Memphis, you know, I spoke out, you know, harshly about Donald Trump and how he handled Charlottesville and the whole statues issue. And I really started pushing behind a group called Take 'Em Down 901, who have been fighting this fight in Memphis about 2 statues for years. And I got backlash within the corporate world. People that sponsored the team threatened to pull out. But, you know, at the end of the day, I don't regret getting active. You know, here I was, a Black coach in a predominantly Black city that was really suffering from poverty and just the generational impact of slavery, Jim Crow. Like, Memphis is a picture of what the repercussions of that. And here it is, I'm in the city where Dr. King was assassinated. I just felt a real urgency and responsibility to have to speak up. And if we don't speak up for that when we have the platform to, then we are really missing our responsibility as a human being.
When we come back, one of the most successful athletes in WCC history joins us. Former Pepperdine star Lynn Williams talks about how professional athletes are taking a stand against racial inequality. Stay with us. This episode comes to you courtesy of Hercules Tires. Ride on our strength. Visit HerculesTires.com. And Shamrock Office Solutions, delivering Rico digital copier and IT solutions to the Bay Area for over 19 years. Welcome back to WCC All-Access. I'm Ezra Broder. As one of a handful of Black women in professional soccer, Lynn Williams is not afraid to speak out about race. I talked with the Pepperdine alum and former league MVP about how she's using her platform as a pro athlete. The NWSL was the first league to return during COVID. Players decided to wear Black Lives Matter t-shirts, kneeling during the anthem. What more would you like to see the NWSL and the players do?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that was a great symbol of like unity, and it just so happened that we were the first league back, so I think we got a lot of exposure in that way. But I feel like we need to do more like actual change. Like, can we implement programs that help change the narrative of soccer, or even helping kids become soccer players? I feel like myself growing up, we were the only Black players on our team, or one of very few, and I think that's a shame. I think that soccer is a worldly sport. It's the biggest sport in the entire world, and so how do we get the sport of soccer to look like America?
About a month ago, the owner of the MLS and NWSL teams in Salt Lake City made some comments about his players who protested by not playing in a game, standing up for racial justice. And in response, you and other NWSL players put out a pretty strong statement kind of condemning his actions and in support of the protesters. Why did you feel it was necessary to sort of speak up on their behalf?
Enough is enough. I think that for so long people have said, oh, it's okay, like he didn't mean it that way, or he's paying our salary, so it's okay, and you shut your mouth and you keep going. And I think that we're in an age and a day where people are just fed up with that. And there was a player on Utah who's a rookie who stood up, and we felt as the Black players that we needed to support her. I feel like it's scary, like brave of her to stand up in the first place, but it could be a scary space to feel like you're standing up to your boss or your owner or like something like that, and feel like maybe your security and your livelihood might be taken away. And so I felt like it was necessary, and we all felt like it was necessary to support her in that space. And I think that was a moment that I was really proud of the NWSL and really proud of the Black players to come together and be unified and be like, you know what, enough is enough. Change is happening, and everybody better get on board.
Can you talk about the coalition that was formed, the Black players of the NWSL, and kind of what you hope to accomplish with that?
There are some things that women experience that are different than men, so we needed to start our own coalition. And I think that's where it stemmed from, is just one, having a voice, but two, providing opportunities for underprivileged Black women and girls, and just paving a new way. Right now, our biggest initiative is voting, and I think that's something that people can do so easily and can make change immediately. So just having a voice for Black girls, Black women, women in general.
Coming up, we talk with the founder of the Institute for Diversity and Ethics in Sports, who oversees the Russell Report, a tool that'll hold the WCC and its schools accountable in their hiring practices. That's up next. You're watching this episode thanks to our sponsors: Heffernan Insurance, because you're different, and Don Francisco's Coffee, premium quality, great tasting, family crafted coffee since 1870, backed by 150 years of coffee roasting expertise for a perfect cup every time. Welcome back to WCC All-Access. I'm Ezra Broder. The WCC became the first college sports conference to enact a diversity hiring initiative called the Russell Rule. And holding the WCC to account is the Institute for Diversity and Ethics in Sports, or TIDES. WCC Commissioner Gloria Nevarez talked with the founder of TIDES, Dr. Richard Lapchick.
Tell us the idea behind the racial and gender report card and how impactful it has become.
The idea is to create transparent information about, up to now it's been about professional sports leagues, as well as college sport in general and the sports media. The idea behind, my motive behind doing it is to increase pressure on the organizations to hire more women and people of color, particularly in decision-making and senior leadership positions. I think when we first started it in 1988, the professional leagues thought of us as kind of a pain in the neck. And now I think all the commissioners use the report card as leverage with their teams. The league offices all do quite well, but it's really at the team level where there's not as many women and people of color in leadership positions.
Being one of those commissioners, we get the report card, we're looking at it all the time. What other ways have you seen the data and the report card serve to provoke action in college athletics?
I think the media uses it regularly. So if during a particular hiring cycle, for example, with the NFL last year, they were stagnant at 4 head coaches of color for 2 straight years, and the media uses it and uses the historical data in it because they had up to 8 at one point, and puts the pressure on the leagues by creating basically bad publicity for the leagues if they're not doing well. And I think the league was very responsive this time. I think Roger Goodell really said, we really have to do this differently. It's not being effective, and to figure out new ways to tweak what is called the Rooney Rule in the NFL.
And so recently, the West Coast Conference had the distinct honor of partnering with Tides and the report card to create the Russell Rule, which we hope to be the college athletic answer to the Rooney Rule. Talk to me a little bit about how this effort is different, perhaps from the Rooney Rule or from the report card standing alone.
Well, I think, it's the first time that something like this has been paired together. It's also the first time we've been asked to do a racial and gender report card. Up to now, we've been doing the others to put pressure on, but with your leadership, the West Coast Conference has become really the first conference to do it. And I'm happy to tell you that other conferences are discussing it now as a result of your leadership and kind of breaking that ground. It's made it much easier, and also, unfortunately, this period of the racial reckoning has made us feel more pressure, I think, as a society to do things that we probably wouldn't have done 6 months ago. But it's my hope that the example you've set will provoke the other major conferences across the country to adopt both a Russell Rule and a racial and gender report card.
And that'll do it. Thank you for watching WCC All-Access. We'll see you next time. This episode was brought to you in part by Reveal Suits, the official business apparel partner of the West Coast Conference. It's what's inside. Visit revealsuits.com. And Signature Championship Rings, your success set in stone.